Alright, so remaking this video, talking about the upcoming election. My personal endorsement has been Libertarian Party, but I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not seeing a whole lot about Gary Johnson that just excited me so much it was going to be like my dedication of my life to see a Gary Johnson campaign get, much better than it has been. What I see as important is having a libertarian voice heard from an authentic libertarian perspective, and that is not a bunch of Marxist, anarchist, so-called social justice warriors going and playing intimidation games on the Trump constituency to try and shut them out of the electoral process. We have an electoral process in this country for a lot of good reasons. An electoral process should remain just that. If one side or the other wins and considers that to be a mandate for triumphalism and repression of everybody who didn't support them, here's what I see. Okay, I see a lot of authentic liberals who are sick of the Clintons. The Clintons never should have been on a comeback. When Al Gore ran for office, everybody kind of thinks, well, usually you don't keep the same political party, it flips. But Al Gore blamed a lot of the Clinton holdover on his loss in the election. In fact, there were a lot of people saying it was a cheated election count. Who knows? When Sarah Palin and John McCain ran, I think it was McCain, Palin, tick. Okay, we had issues with the authenticity on McCain. But the other side of it was people kind of figured, well, they had 8 years of the Bushes. We've done the Bushes before. It's just time to swap that out. Right now, we've had 8 years of Obama, 8 years of Democrat-run administration. There's a lot of people thinking that the foreign policy hasn't really gone in the right direction, and it's kind of heading for disaster. It's heading disaster because they keep kicking some big, powerful, superpower capable type of people who could burn down the planet, keep kicking them in the shins, and at the same time, kind of thumbing their nose at the up-and-coming powers in Asia in some dumb ways. And America diplomatically is having a lot of credibility problems. And that power vacuum in reality is being filled by nobody. Okay, the Russians currently don't have the diplomatic clout that the Soviets had. And it's because the Russians represent a much smaller constituency now. They don't represent all of the other republics. And that Humpty Dumpty is not going back together again because all those other republics really don't want to be ruled by the Muscovy state. They just don't really want that. And I'm not sure if everybody on the Trump or even the Clinton side fully understands how that concept works. And I think it's still kind of like, what does America want in that region? What can America do? How can we stir some shit up over there? And it's a little bit dangerous to play on when you push them too far. You push them too far into their home country and start trying to bite off pieces of their homelands. We're talking about thousands of years of homeland. We're not talking about some country that's, kind of like it's all on stolen ground and it's been there for 200 years and it is what it is today, not what it was 500 years ago. Russia is what it was, 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago. It's a little different game to play, and I don't think that black America is mature enough to play that game. I don't think that female political America is mature enough to play that game. And I noticed that with the politics. Condoleezza Rice was a reasonably decent foreign secretary of state, She kind of understood a lot of how the game works, but she was never very far from a lot of men who knew how things worked. And she would happily work with them on advice. This Podesta guy, who was one of Clinton's main advisors, I think Podesta understands a lot of stuff. I think he's a relatively competent advisor. I don't think he's going away. If Clinton loses the election, we're not necessarily losing his competent advice and connections. I think that what we can point to is a lot of things that Trump has said being true, that the current power structure in Washington, D.C. is a failed power structure. They've done a whole lot of things that don't really benefit anybody but themselves. They're purchasing goodwill with people whose goodwill I'm not sure if America really wants. They're purchasing it with money that isn't theirs, and it's unethical and it's corrupt, and it's got to go. I think a lot of rank and file liberals understand that. They're willing to let the national government go Republican for a while as long as they can control a lot of local and municipal and big city governments, and they definitely control a lot of big city governments. That's what I see. I don't see them really doing a whole lot of revolution in the street if things don't go the way in Washington, D.C., because there's so many metropolitan area power structures right now in the United States that recognize Washington, D.C. as it's broken. Okay, it's broken. It's not. Things aren't getting done. They're not getting done well. It's broken. In the liberty movement right now, the liberty movement I think is definitely broken. It's been dogged down on some really incredibly stupid issues with people that don't have realistic solutions or policies to a lot of stuff, not the least of which are just some ethically indefensible situations, ethically indefensible labor policies. If I need to argue with somebody more than once why it is ethical to pay more than minimum wage, and you really need to be doing it. If I really need to have that argument with somebody, I almost got to write them off. And I've had this with other people who get really shy about what their political leanings really are by defining the goals that they have and the wants that they have, the things that they want people to do, as somehow morally superior, therefore exempt from having to compensate the people who do the work for them. I've seen that so much that I think it deserves another video. Especially when we're supposed to be performing labor in somebody else's name so that they get the social benefit of it, and we're not even getting that. And that's what I find morally unacceptable, regardless of somebody's political claims or ideological claims. It's morally unacceptable to get a bunch of other people to work for you for free or sub-minimum wage, then take social credit for the work they did, and then they walk away with neither payment nor social credit. I'm not buying it. Okay, and I've seen that happen on both the right and the left. I've seen it happen in the Libertarian freedom movement. The people who actually performed the work, people who actually made the contributions, don't get the level of recognition that the so-called fundraiser gets or the beneficiary gets. And a lot of people want to define themselves as the beneficiary or the fundraiser, the power broker, and not the people who actually make the contributions and do the work. And if you're not going to play that game, if that's not how you want to recognize stuff, then that's a political movement that's never going to fully form and never be very formidable, except for in the midterm elections. I think we can get things done in little pockets, little places here and there. Whether or not there's going to be a lot of election violence with regards to the whole Clinton versus Trump, it's really between a constituency. And I think there will be. I just don't think it's going to be any mass murder stuff. I don't think it's a shit hit the fan thing. I don't think it's a major thing. I think a lot of people are going to learn how well America can get along with the government being in upheaval, and the rest of the people are pretty well going to figure out how to make things work. And I think that's how it's going to go. I think the Washington, D.C. is going to be in upheaval for a little while, and everybody's going to learn how well the states can work without them. I think that a lot of that's going to happen. And don't be surprised if a year from now we're making videos or watching videos and saying, hey, I told you so. I was around for the 1991 Nostradamus end of the world prediction. Didn't really happen, but some of the sequence was there. I was around for the Y2K thing. That was pretty much a fizzle. More things happened in the 2000 to 2001 transition year than they did in the 99 to 2000 transition year. We were all around for the 2012 thing, okay, and I think there was a 2014 or something. There was another series of predictions. So, of all the survivalists and proper channels right now, people talk about, you know, what's this big thing that's going to happen, this, or that. I'm going to bet no. Just in my sense. Now, a lot of this is speculative. And then there is information. It's just my hunch tells me shit's not going to hit the fan real soon.